Galarian Moltres continuing to farm up. We see Turbo T bank a bucketload of energy and make a savage double resisted Dragon Claw catch onto Weezing. Weezing commits to the farm down, leaving absolutely loaded. The opponent sends out Sizzle. Old trainer. Do they know about that overheat nuke? Welcome back to the channel. We're at the business end of Season 23, the final few days. Most of us, myself included, are in the Season 24 waiting room. However, if you're looking to reach your goals, this is the time of the season where I like to post teams you can actually climb with. Today we've got an absolute banger of a battle submission from my friend, my faction's teammate, and without a doubt one of my favourite battlers to shoutcast, the one, the only, Turbo T612. This highly talented trainer is opting for a powerful Dark plus Poison core. This core has been around all the way since the very early seasons of GBL. Back in the day, the poison type of choice was Nidoqueen, usually on with something like Umbreon. Despite Niantic / Scopely buffing Nidoqueen this season, giving access to Poison Sting, it did not make its glorious return. Next season it's getting Mud Slap. Will it finally be back meta relevant? We'll have to wait and see. I don't think being a Mud Slapper that gets wrecked by other Mud Slappers is particularly a good asset, but potentially it'll find play. Rounding out Turbo's team, we've got the best Mud Boy in the Great League, the one and only Shadow Quagsire, operating on the safe switch. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game one, we are off to a good start as Galarian Weezing stares down the boring, bulky bunny. The opponent says no thank you, safe switch into Fortress, and this is somewhat of a core breaker for us. Flyers are usually advantageous into bugs, however Fortress's sub-steel typing does neutralise flying. And our dark subtyping means we're taking so much damage from these neutral bug bites. I guess Turbo T's thought process here is get some value out of Moltres and keep it far away from Azumarill. Here, this should only be a Sand Tomb. Turbo T has been to score, he knows his counts, and it looks like he's going to take shield advantage here in the mid-game matchup, as I'm anticipating the opponent shielding and looking to flip alignment. The opponent does exactly that. They're down both Protect Shields, and we're going to send out Weezing, potentially look for the world's most aggressive fairy when farm down. Fortress fires off a Sand Tomb that is super effective and also lowers our defense, but these bug bites are double resisted. Turbo T, not wanting to get hit with another Sand Tomb, fires off the sludge, removing them from the field of play, and out comes Shadow Typhlosion. Typhlosion is not going to appreciate this sludge. Sludge only neutral, but Shadow on Shadow Crime almost picks up the one-hit KO. We see the sludge banked and the pivot and the catch onto the Quagman. Thunder Punch doesn't do much of anything. The opponent recognises they're going to get farmed down and send out Azumarill. Despite losing switch advantage, Turbo T very much sitting in the driver's seat. The opponent fire off the Ice Beam. Quagsire, as always, looking very happy with itself. Invests the Protect Shield and returns fire with the Stone Edge. Stone Edge rocks Azumarill down below the half health range. Turbo T reaches the next Stone Edge. Here we could combo play, but potentially we're just going to Mud Shot farm them down. Turbo T goes to the Mud Shot farm down on Azumarill. Typhlosion would also die to the Mud Shots, and just like that, we're off to a very quick 1-0 start. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see Kanto Ninetales in the lead position. Without a doubt, one of the Pokemon I'm most excited to use next season, but let's try not to get distracted. We fire off the Sludge, attempt a Weather Ball catch onto the Quagman, catch attempt unsuccessful. The opponent bank their energy and send out the Jellyfish. Quagsire, not mucking around, goes straight for the Stone Edge, instantly rocking the opponent below the half health range. The opponent opts for the Surf, which I think is a mistake. If you see the regular variant of Quagsire, double Surf's the play. If you see a Shadow, you can Shadow Ball and then Hex Farm down afterwards. Like this, the opponent's forced to dump yet further energy, and this just sets up an opportunity for Moltres to hit the field of play and get a very nice energy lead. Unfortunately for Turbo T, this energy isn't going to go far into the Pancake, as it is a complete wall to our energy. However, saying that Brave Bird, even resisted, it did do some decent chip damage. We are completely core broken here. We send out Weezing, a shield up the Mud Bomb. The opponent go for the wham, bam, combo play. Turbo says, you're not running Side Shot. Oh crap, they certainly are running Side Shot. Weezing straight in and straight out. Moltres able to farm down, but at this point our only win con is Sucker Punch farming them down before they double up. That certainly is not achievable. The opponent at the double discharge. Turbo recognises there's no point in shielding, as if we shielded, the first would force our shield and the second would knock us out. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Lapras in the lead position. Turbo T says no thank you, say switches into the Quagman. The opponents stay in. Likely looking some chip and dip, or potentially they're going to look to catch a Stone Edge. The opponent does chip us. Send out Moltres. Turbo T like, fuck it, this thing's getting Stone Edged anyway. Stone Edge! Monstrous damage. Can we Mud Shot farm down? Unfortunately, we cannot, and it ends in a simul KO. We're now in the guessing game. Turbo T sends out Weezing slightly early, thinking the opponent will send out their third. I'm unsure there if the opponent guessed right or actually saw us come in. Turbo T, undeterred, fires off the sludge, winning charge attack priority. It looks like Turbo T going to tank the damage and put all his hopes and dreams on a 2-shielded Moltres. Out comes Gligar, so this game is far from over. Moltres favoured into Gligar as our stab sucker punches do objectively more than their neutral non-stab fury cutters. The opponent tank the fly, potentially allowing Moltres the full farm down from this point. Both trainers still with 2 protect shields to hide behind. Turbo T fires off yet another fly. Forced the first protect shield of the game. The opponent farming up a boatload of energy. Can we farm down before the next aerial ace is reached? That is going to be the question. Let's go Moltres. Oh my days. Fractional HP the opponent get there. That is heartbreaking. To be honest, I'm unsure if that was DRE or if the opponent actually got that move off. It's hard to tell when battles are sped up. We stay in, look to force the energy. Can we now Fairy Wind farm down before we get Sidewave farmed out? We cannot, and that one ends in a very narrow loss. GG's to both trainers. Heading into the next battle, we've got Shadow and Shadow Crime as Galarian Weezing stares down the new kid on the block, or the newly released Shadow Legendary, I should say, Giratina. Ironically, that wasn't a bad matchup for the opponent, as due to Turbo T's choice of moveset, Galarian Weezing is actually fully walled. If that Giratina's opting for Shadow Claw, that'd actually be fairly decent into us. Of course, if we're on Dragon Breath, it's god-awful as the Dragon Breath would be double resisted. We pivot into Quagsire. Once again, you can see Turbo T's playstyle. He doesn't really play for switch advantage, instead likes to have an energy lead instead. Most Shadow Galarian Weezing do run Brutal Swing plus Sludge. With that in mind, the opponent reluctant to send Giratina back into the arena, send out Talonflame, aka the Kentucky Fried Chicken Bird of Death. The first Sludge forced to protect shield, the second Sludge is able to land, and we see the pivot into Moltres. We see the instant shield deployed, the opponent YOLO that Brave Bird, and that is a massive protect shield deployed. The opponent is on Dragon Breath, which is advantageous from here, as the Dragon Breaths of course are hitting for heavy neutral damage as opposed to resisted Shadow Claws. The opponent tanked the fly, and I think this is just game over. Turbo T can invest in protect shield, blocking up the Dragon Claw. Giratina unable to reach another move. The opponent recognise they cannot win the match, and they run for the hills. GG's. Heading into the next battle, what a lead. Weezing stares down the bulky, boring Blue Bunny. What isn't lovely is that lag. Looks like we only got 1 turn lag. 7 Fairy Winds and the charge move should be optimal timing, but game like nah, that is a CMP tie. I think if I had to use one word to sum up Season 23 of the Go Battle League, lag certainly comes to mind. Turbo T heavily overfarms, fires off the sludge, and looks to remove Azumarill from the field of play. Down goes Azumarill. We can see Turbo looking to spam the switch into Quagsire and save Weezing, potentially whatever's in the back, as clearly the opponent must be ABA weak. In an ideal world, the opponent's going to pivot out of this matchup, giving us the alignment we want without them knowing it. The opponent does exactly that. Send out Scrafty. Quagsire gonna fire off the Aqua Tail, but at -1, that does not do much whatsoever. I think Scrafty is actually a really good core breaker in the Season 23 meta. It's really bulky and got access to Upper Hand, which ironically is one of the best charge moves in the game. It's Sludge with a debuff charge. You cannot ask for more than that. It's a 2-shielded balloon versus the wild. We send out our oppressive Sucker Punch usually. The opponent like, nah, no thank you, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, awfully, we see the pivot into Quagsire. The opponent opts to stay in. Turbo T takes the initiative, goes straight for the Aqua Tail, doing almost all of Marowak's health. In a situation like this, you can look at it one of 2 ways. The opponent's core broken by Quagsire, or they've got another very good answer for our Weezing. Turbo T invests in Quagsire, fires off the next Aqua Tail, forces the protect shield, and I think the answer is they're going to be weak to Quagsire in the back. Hopefully that isn't the case, and hopefully our core of Weezing / Moltres can still beat the backline. Turbo T reluctant to double shield, out comes Wallface. If only Quagsire is still alive. Turbo T fires off the OV. OV hits for neutral, reset a debuff, and send out Moltres. This is looking like a dire situation, but I'd never write Turbo T off. I've seen this guy pull off some crazy win cons, essentially pulling magic out of a hat. Turbo T gonna YOLO the Brave Bird. Brave Bird gets Wallface low. Can we Sucker Punch farm down before they reach another charge move? You've got to be kidding me. What is this cancer of a team? Marowak basted on Steelix. That is certainly going to be a loss. Turbo T, I recognise it, and he's going to concede the match. In the next battle, Turbo T looking to bounce back, and we lead Weezing into the Kentucky Fried Chicken Bird of Death. Of course, Turbo T throws optimal fast move timing, which in this matchup you want to throw 2 Fairy Winds or 7. We fired off 7 the first time, 2 the next time, and force ourselves an early shield advantage. We then pivot into Quagsire. We're going to no-shield this move. Oof, the Brave Bird almost picks up a one-hit KO, and out comes Primeape to get a small energy lead. It's nice to bait this thing out, as Moltres kind of struggles into Primeape, as Primeape heavily outpaces and most do opt for Ice Punch now, as opposed to that close combat nuke. Meaning they get consistent super effective damage, as opposed to having to debuff themselves with that Hail Mary close combat. I like what Turbo T's doing here. He's always throwing one quick move before the next Rage Fist is reached. Trust me, you don't want to try and charge attack priority of Primeape, because it essentially beats everything in attack stat in the Great League, or at least everything you're going to see. Down goes Primeape. We can see Turbo T spamming the switch. It's Marowak in the back. The opponent pivots into Talonflame, unfortunately unable to Sucker Punch farm down before the Brave Birds reach. Brave Bird rocks us low, but able to withstand the damage, able to Sucker Punch farm down before the Incinerate registers, and it's time for us to YOLO the Brave Bird. Brave Bird almost knocks out. We Sucker Punch farm down and take that game. Heading into the next battle, you couldn't ask for a better lead. Weezing into Dragonite. The opponent say switch into Sizzle, and Sizzle is somewhat of a problematic Pokemon. I believe this is only 6, so should only be a Night Slash. Turbo T, Investor Protection regardless. When it's Shadow on Shadow Crime, Sizzle and their 2 shields are bloody menace. You can land one Night Slash, then resist it, Bullet Punch farm down, which is kind of absurd. Again, this is only a Night Slash, and Turbo T willing to tank the damage, so the opponent can flip alignment if they want, and I imagine they do want, as who wants Weezing aligned against their Dragonite? The opponent does double shield, and are going to be able to fully Bullet Punch farm down, but we can send out Moltres here and look to wall the energy. That poor old Dragonite is about to get absolutely clapped. It likely comes back out into Moltres, but now we've got an energy lead, we are going to be able to wait at pace. To said Brave Bird, and have no doubt, Dragonite going to be straight in and straight out. Brave Bird picks up the one-hit KO. It's the Denny in the back, and this game is signed, sealed, and delivered. Sludge, monstrous damage, very close to the one-hit KO. We're able to Fairy Wind farm down and take that game. Heading into the next battle. Turbo leads Weezing into Dusclops. If we were on the more conventional, or at least the recommended moveset on PvP, this would be a pretty nice matchup, as we would be able to outpace to the super effective brutal swings. Turbo T actually YOLOs the overheat lands for heavy neutral damage, and we see the pivot into the Quagman. The Quagsire say switch is answered by Jumpluff, and this is why I say Quagsire is the best mud boy in the Great League. Despite us being double weak to grass types, Quagsire can definitely fight back in this matchup. Turbo T calls the opponent isn't on Energy Ball. Oof. Poor Quagsire was so young. Double super effective. Quagsire gets one shot vanquished. Back to its Pokeball. Back out comes Weezing. The opponent fire off the Aerial Ace. A very nice overfarm. Trapping the opponent into the CMP so they do not win. And Sludge removes Jumpluff from the field of play. We see the pivot and the catch onto Moltres. Turbo T looking to make something happen here. Shadow Punch does not do much of anything. Out comes Annihilate. Oh boy. How to win this game? I think we really need Moltres to survive long enough to reach the next fly. Can we get there? No, we can't. Oof. We send out Weezing. Look to fire off the Sludge, but we get denied coming in. Oh man, it's all starting to go wrong for us. I think we've definitely got a chance here if the game worked as intended, because Sludge would have done one of two things: force the final Protect Shield if they wanted to get off the next Rage Fist, or just cleanly knock them out. But unfortunately, game doesn't work as intended, and that one does end in heartbreaking defeat. Scopely, fix this goddamn game, honestly. Heading into the next battle. Weezing catches another Giratina in the lead position. The opponent save switch into Diggersby, and interestingly goes straight for a Fire Punch, not even committing to the Scorching Sands. Turbo T recognised that, of course, couldn't be a Scorching Sands. It takes 7 quick attacks, not the 5 they threw, tanked the damage, and pivoted into the Quagman. Turbo T looks to fire his Aqua Tail before the opponent potentially debuff us with a Scorching Sands. Of course, that is being nerfed next season. It's probably getting the Drapion treatment, going from a 30% chance to debuff to a 20% chance. Quagsire fires off the next Aqua Tail. The opponent invests the Protect Shield. Fire Punch isn't quite lethal, but the opponent able to snipe with Giratina, and in the process, re-switch lock it. Turbo T opts to send out Moltres that is taking neutral from the Dragon Breath, as opposed to double resisted in Weezing's case, but Weezing of course will be fully walled. Turbo T farms up a boatload of energy right on cue. There is the catch. The double resisted Dragon Claw onto Weezing. Now they're in farm down range. Weezing gets that farm down, leaving absolutely loaded. The opponent sends out Sizzle, and do they know? We are forced into the overheat. Overheat able to land, get that Sizzle off my screen. That probably killed that Sizzle, and every Sizzle has ever entered the Go Battle League as we take that game. What a way to end a set number 2 in this 2-set shoutcast. Clutching up a 3-2. Is that enough to get us legend rank in this? I'm unsure if we get the Pikachu Libre set. Let's see where we end up. 3-2 gets us to 29.92. Heading into the third and final set, we lead Weezing into Steelix. I think this is the main reason we're opting for Overheat, because Weezing plus Moltres does make a very good core, but it's completely core broken by a Steelix. The opponent fire off the Psychic Fangs. We are going for a very risky bait. Sludge, force the Protection. This will enable us to outpace to the Overheat. Oh my days, that is a savage catch. The opponent catches the Overheat onto Giratina, where it is resisted, but still does a very solid chunk of damage. I really like the way that Turbo T allowed himself to get farmed down there. So we in return can farm down this Giratina. We're not switch locked, so if Steelix re-enters the arena, we can pivot into Quagsire and hard punish him. The opponent waiting out their time and recognising they're going to be switch locked and we are not. Steelix re-enters the arena and here comes Quagsire. Quagsire unfortunately about to get very loyally debuffed with the Psychic Fangs, and the opponent then sends out Hakmo-O. Again, this looks tough. Quagsire fully walled, Aqua Tail resisted by the Dragon type in, Stone Edge resisted by the Fighting type in. That one is going to end in a heartbreaking defeat. Heading into the next battle, we see one of the worst leads we could possibly see. We say switch into Quagsire, the opponent banks some energy and send out Azumarill. Azumarill instantly greeted with the Stone Edge. Is Turbo T going to look to flip alignment here in the mid-game matchup? No, he's not. Once again, he's going to take an energy lead. We've already seen that Novi cleanly one-shot Sizzle, so I don't dislike this play either. Hopefully the Azumarill baited out as well. Moltres is going to be very good into whatever the third is. Weezing looking for the Fairy Wind farm down, unable to get it before the Ice Beams reached. We Fairy Wind farm down, leaving with the Overheat. Once again, we're going for the Sludge bait. Sludge, force the Protect Shield, and here comes Moltres. The opponent stay in, looking for some chipping action, but everything is resisted. Turbo T, despite this, choosing the Vest Protect Shield, value in health. Sizzle continues to stay in, and we're going to see the final Protect Shield deployed here. At this point, the opponent is nothing but free farm. They pivot out into Blastoise. Moltres are going to fire off the Fly, and I think we need a catch to have any chance of winning this battle. Fly, force the Protect Shield, one Sucker Punch, and the next Fly. The opponent now receiving the energy for the Hydro Cannon. When do we go for that catch? Okay, we don't catch, but the opponent does throw. I think there are only 2 rollouts off the Hydro Cannon. I think we're about to get outpaced. Blastoise wins the race to the Hydro Cannon heartbreakingly. On the cusp of Legend rank, we start this set with 0-2, meaning Turbo T needs to win 3 battles on the bounce. With all the pressure on Turbo T, we see their Dream lead. And an even better save switch, the opponent is completely core broken by Weezing. Weezing stays in, fires off the Sludge, forcing the first protection of the game. The opponent farmed 2 potential acrobatics, and we are going to see it respected. Despite not knowing how to speak German, I'm more than confident that Aero Arse is Aerial Ace. The Germans really do know best. Turbo T was able to land the next Sludge, then we see the Aerial Ace catch, or Aerial Arse as the Germans like to call it. Don't moan at my language, that is literally what it said on the screen. The opponent switch timers up, they pivot out into the Panda Bear. Quite surprised to see the opponent shield this Panda Bear, as of course they're completely walled by Weezing. They need to fire for close combat if they want to knock this bird from the sky. Night Slash simply doesn't cut it. The opponent recognised we're receiving the energy for the next fly and look to dump yet another Night Slash. Finally, Moltres removed from the field of play, and back out comes Weezing. Potentially we can just fully Fairy Wind farm him down from this point. Opponent fires off yet another Night Slash. We don't see the boost. Turbo T going to value health here. Shielding up the close combat, despite being double resisted, would actually do more than a single resisted Night Slash. Out comes Clodsire. Clodsire gets greeted with the Overheat, and here comes the Quagman. The opponent tried their luck catching the Aqua Tail onto Jumpluff. Oh boy, please tell me this ain't an energy ball. There's the acrobatics, but the super happy Quagman able to withstand the damage, able to get a resisted, or triple resisted I should say, Mudshot farm now, leaving with the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail lands onto Clodsire. We're doubled up, they're forced to dump their energy. Even a Sludge Bomb at this point will knock us out. It's going to be a race to the next charge move. Weezing able to win the race, fire off the Sludge, and despite being resisted, Sludge is going to be all she wrote. GG's. Holy man, that was a rollercoaster of emotions in the endgame. In the next battle, we see Fortress in the lead position. We farmed the overheat once again. Bait with the Sludge. Turbo T, man, you're killing so many cats today. Sludge forces the Protect Shield. The opponent going to return fire with the Mirror Shot. What the heck? Who runs Mirror Shot in the Great League? Undeterred, Weezing this time at full send of the overheat. Overheat forces the opponent all shields down. The opponent looking for that resisted Bug Bite farm down. They actually opt to dump energy, which is a best case scenario. Mirror Shot, of course, is going to knock out. And here comes the Quagman. I imagine their second move is going to be Rock Tomb, as Rock Tomb is probably Fortress's best move. Right on cue, there is said Rock Tomb, annoyingly debuffing our attack, meaning we'll have to full send a Stone Edge if we want to remove this Fortress from the field of play. Turbo T does exactly that. Stone Edge picks up the knockout. We pivot into Moltres, and here comes Cradilly. Is this going to be some kind of really annoying triple debuff team? The opponent has no shields. We're going to fire off the fly, recognising we don't really want to debuff ourselves, meaning these acids are going to do even more damage. The opponent fire off the Rock Tomb, forcing our first Protect Shield. Turbo T going to farm up, playing 2 CMP, maximising his energy. Fly, even at -1, removes Cradilly from the field of play. Out comes Spirit Tomb. Of course, it's going to be a very annoying triple Rock Tomb team, because why bloody not? Why would you not want to gatekeep almost at 3000 elo with the world's most annoying team? Turbo T is debuffed, but this Brave Bird should still knock out. We've still got some health on Quagsire. Brave Bird, even at -1, it does pick up the knockout, and we go to a decisive game 5. Weezing into Dusclops. Last time we saw a Dusclops lead, it did end in defeat, so Turbo T going to be looking for some redemption. The opponent fire off the Shadow Punch, then pivot into the Mirror. Turbo T not messing around, Fulton and the overheat. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. They near get one shot. We snipe with Quagsire and get a very nice energy lead. Okay, just like that, that is legend ranked achieved. The opponent doesn't want the smoke, they concede the match, and we're able to take that game. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's video. Of course, a huge congratulations to Turbo T for once again achieving legend rank. Of course, a battler like him, I had zero doubts in his ability, and he did it in his own way, running a very cool team that I haven't seen anywhere else. If you need a strong team for the final few days and you've got these Pokemon, perhaps give it a try for yourself. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, a link to a battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.